There are 2,430 games in a typical Major League Baseball season, and with that many, there's always going to be a few outliers that push the limits of certain stats. With the 2024 season fast approaching, I thought it would be fun to do a quick recap of the year through those outlier games. Let's start off with the longest game of the season. The longest game of the 2023 season took place on September 16th between the Chicago Cubs and Arizona Diamondbacks. All in all, it took 4 hours and 24 minutes for a winner to be crowned in this marathon matchup. It was the bottom of the 13th when Gabriel Moreno finally broke the deadlock and walked it off for the D-backs. By the end of the game, the two teams had used a combined 15 pitchers and both teams had 12 hits. With the length of games recently being cut down by the Manfred runner and pitch clock, this game was one of only a few that lasted over 4 hours last year. As you probably could have guessed, the next game we'll look at is the shortest game of the year. I'm only considering games where all 9 innings were played here, as there were a couple that were cut short. The shortest game of the year took place on September 14th between Washington and Pittsburgh, and clocked in at an hour and 50 minutes. It was one of only 15 games in 2023 that came in under the 2-hour mark. And as you might have guessed for a game this short, the pitching dominated. Josiah Gray went 6 1/3 with 10 strikeouts, allowing only 2 earned runs off of a couple solo shots. Mitch Keller went 8 innings with 7 strikeouts and only allowed 2 hits and a walk. Only 5 pitchers were used throughout the entire game, and the 2 solo shots off of Josiah Gray were the only runs scored as the Pirates defeated the Nationals 2-0. The next game we're looking at is the highest total strikeout game. This is for both teams combined in a single game, and it was a 5-way tie at 32 strikeouts. Rather than go through all 5 games though, I'm just going to choose one here. In their first game of the season on March 30th, the San Francisco Giants and New York Yankees struck out a combined 32 times. 23 of those strikeouts came courtesy of the starting pitchers that day, Garrett Cole and Logan Webb. Both guys went 6 innings, Cole struck out 11 and Webb struck out 12. Cole fared a lot better on the scoreboard though, as he allowed no earned runs to Webb's 4. Despite John Brebbia adding 3 more to the strikeout total in his 1 inning, the Yankees managed to score another run off of him, and the game concluded as a 5-0 shutout for New York. In contrast to the highest strikeout game, now we're going to look at the game with the most combined walks. On April 14th, the New York Mets and Oakland Athletics combined for 21 walks in a single game. Although the Athletics nearly hold this record on their own, as their pitchers issued 17 out of those 21 walks. James Caprillion issued 7 walks over his 3 2/3 innings, but that wasn't even the worst of the Athletics pitchers. Hogan Harris came out of the bullpen to start the 5th, and after getting a quick ground out, he issued 5 walks and hit Brandon Nimmo with a pitch before getting yanked from the game. Unsurprisingly, with their 17 walks and 2 hit by pitches, the Mets went on to win this game 17-6, despite the Athletics actually out-hitting the Mets 13-11. The next game we're looking at is the game with the most combined home runs. On April 29th, the San Francisco Giants and San Diego Padres combined for a ridiculous 11 home runs in their game. Both teams contributed as the Giants hit 5 and the Padres hit 6. And amazingly, Manny Machado was the only player to hit more than 1. The other 9 came from 9 separate players. The biggest culprits on the pitching side were Joe Musgrove, who gave up 3 long balls over his 3 1/3 innings, and Jacob Junis, who gave up 4 in his 2 2/3. Obviously, with 11 home runs and 30 total hits, this was a high-scoring outing, and the Padres came out on top, defeating the Giants 16-11. Next on the list is the game with the most combined runs scored. This one was a 2-way tie at 29 runs, but we're just going to look at the Diamondbacks vs. Braves game on July 18th. If you're interested in looking at the other game, it was Reds vs. Cubs on August 1st. The D-backs and Braves combined for 27 hits in this crazy back-and-forth game. Austin Riley and Christian Walker were the biggest contributors, with both guys hitting 2 home runs for their respective teams. Riley drove in 7 runs and Walker drove in 5. This game went into the 9th inning deadlocked at 13 runs apiece before the Diamondbacks put up a 3-spot and Kevin Ginkel struck out the side to win the game for Arizona. The next game we're looking at is the game with the most combined stolen bases. Amazingly, Ronald Acuna Jr. wasn't a part of this game, as on June 3rd, the Brewers and Reds combined for 10 steals. Just like the game with the most walks, this is more of a one-team record though. Christian Yelich stole the only base for the Brewers, and the other 9 were taken by Reds base runners. Jake Fraley was the biggest contributor as he stole 3 bags in the game, but Spencer Steer and Jonathan India each had 2 of their own. 6 of the Reds' stolen bases came off of the Brewers' tandem of Colin Ray and William Contreras. Contreras was only slightly below average at throwing out base runners last year, so obviously the Reds had a pretty good read on Ray. Nonetheless, the aggressive base running of the Reds wasn't enough as the Brewers ended up winning the game by a score of 10-8. The last game we'll look at is the game with the most combined errors. This was a 2-way tie again at 6 errors, but we'll just look at the game on August 20th between the Blue Jays and Reds. If you're interested, the other game was Giants vs. Twins on May 24th. In the game between the Jays and Reds, Toronto committed 2 errors to the Reds' 4. Chapman and Vladdy both committed their errors in the bottom of the second, allowing 2 Reds to score. The Reds' errors were a bit more spread out as they committed 2 in the first, 1 in the 6th, and 1 in the 8th. Elly De La Cruz was the only player with multiple errors at 2, with the others coming from Marte and McLean. Overall, the game ended as a Blue Jays blowout, with Toronto defeating Cincinnati 10-3. And that'll do it for my recap of the 2023 regular season through the games that reached the extremes of certain stats. Let me know in the comments what your favorite game last season was, and if you enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe. I'm Jack of All Baseball, and I'll see you next time.